So recently I uploaded a video titled I Dated a TikTok Girl. And in that video, I talked about how I dated this girl that would do TikToks all the time, whether it was just her filming her day-to-day life or her listening to music. And she was obsessed with the app, and it got to a point where she was so obsessed with it that she dumped me while recording a TikTok. If you haven't seen that story time, I suggest you go watch it. I'll leave it in the description. You'll definitely understand this story time a lot more if you go and watch that story time first. So yeah, I'll leave that linked down below if you want to go watch that. And before we jump into today's story time, I just want to say my new song comes out in less than a week. Please go pre-save it if you want. It would be really, really helpful. And if you do pre-save it, make sure you tweet me on Twitter or tag me on Instagram. I'm going to be doing a follow spree tonight of people that pre-saved it. So anyway, today's story time takes place a week ago, okay? I've been waiting to tell this story time because the chances of the things that happen in this story time I'm about to tell are so slim to none that it's shocking, okay? So this story time takes place a week ago. I woke up. It was a very normal day for me. I got out of bed. I took a shower. I got ready for my day, got dressed, started working on a video for a little bit. And then I realized while I was working on my video that I was really hungry. I'm like, damn, I haven't eaten breakfast today. I keep forgetting to eat breakfast every day. I should probably do that. So I got up, I walked into the kitchen, I go and look for some cereal. I have none. Then I find this protein bar thing, and I'm like, okay, I guess I can eat this, whatever. And then I go and try and grab milk. I have none. No almond milk, no normal milk. I'm like, all right, clearly this house needs groceries. So I take a trip down to the grocery store, okay? Now, the grocery store that I go to is a pretty small one. I know a lot of people that go to this other one that's really big, and I have a lot of friends that work at the other one. So I prefer to go to the small one because I don't see anybody that I know there. So I can just get in, get out, go home, and, have my cereal, right? So I go to this grocery store, I go shopping, I get a bunch of things that I need for my house. I get cereal, I get milk, I get a bunch of other food, I get snacks, and I just get everything that I need for like the next week or so. So after I get everything that I need, I get in a line to check out, and I realize something while I'm in line. There's this girl that's standing right in front of me in line to check out, and she's talking on the phone, and her voice sounds really familiar. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, whose voice is that? Like, I know that voice. Who is it? And then it hits me. I'm like, wait a minute. That's the girl that I used to date that made the TikTok about us breaking up. Like, she filmed it. Oh, man, like, that's gotta be her. I didn't see her face. I could only see the back of her head because she was turned around on the phone. But her height and her hair color was the same, and her voice was the same. Now, like I said, I couldn't see her face because she was turned around on the phone, and she had a mask on as well. But her voice was identical to the girl's voice that I used to date who was obsessed with TikTok. So she gets off the phone because it's her turn to check out, and she walks up to the counter, she starts putting her groceries on the counter, and I put my hood up, and I put my mask even more over my face than it was. Like, it was almost covering my eyes at this point, because I just did not want to get recognized by her if it was her, because that would be the most awkward conversation. Like, I don't know if she's seen my video or not. Like, if she has, that's going to be the most awkward conversation in the world. So I'm just standing there, watching her check out her groceries, hoping that she doesn't turn around and recognize me. Now, luckily, the chances of that happening were very slim, because I was wearing a hoodie, sweatpants, I had my hood up, I had a mask on. Like, the chance of her turning around and knowing that it was me were pretty slim. So I wasn't completely freaking out, but I was definitely freaking out a little bit. So she's almost done checking out her groceries, and I'm thinking like, all right, like she's almost done. She'll turn around after this, put her cart back, and walk out the door with her groceries, and she'll go to her car, and she'll never even notice me, like no big deal. But of course, it couldn't go that smoothly, because on this day, I seemed to be the most unluckiest human being on planet Earth, okay? So right after she got done checking out and she had her groceries back in her cart, she started walking over to where you put your cart back, and she starts taking out all of her groceries and putting her cart back. And this dude walks in the store who's probably like the same age as me, and he sees me, and we make eye contact, and I have a mask on, he has a mask on, and somehow, some way, I have no idea how he knew, but he just yells out, he goes, "Yo, Luna, my boy!" And everybody in this store that was around us turns and looks at me, including my ex. So in my head, I'm just thinking like, wow, this is not how I imagined this grocery trip going. So I waved to him, and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? And he walks over to me. He's like, yo, how you doing, dude? I watch your videos. I'm like, thank you, bro. And me and him are just talking, and I look up, and I notice that my ex is still just standing there staring at me. And I look at her for a second, and then I look down and just try to avoid eye contact because it was so awkward. So me and this dude talk for like 5 minutes while I'm checking out my groceries, and I get done and I start walking towards the door, and I realize that my ex is gone. I'm like, okay, she's not at the front door. She left. She must have taken her groceries to her car. She must have left. Like, I'm in the clear. So I say goodbye to this dude. I'm like, yo, thank you so much for watching my videos, bro. Like, I hope you have a good day. He's like, you too, homie. And I walk out of the grocery store. I have my groceries. I put them in my car, and I'm thinking like, wow, what a great day. Like, even though that was unexpected, that could have been a lot more awkward, and I'm really happy it's over. And I look around real quick around the parking lot to make sure that she's not like in her car, like looking at me or in the parking lot. And I can't see anything. So I'm like, okay, good. She must have left. And I turn around and I start putting my groceries back into my car. And all of a sudden, like a minute later while I'm doing this, I hear a voice from behind me go, Austin, is that you? And I turn around and I look and it's her. And I'm like, oh, hey, like, how you doing? Like, just pretending to be surprised to see her, even though I just saw her in the store. And she was like, good, I just noticed you in the store. Like, I saw that dude recognize you from your YouTube channel. So I thought I'd put my groceries in the car and then come say hello to you outside. And she pointed to where her car was when she said that, and it was around the corner. I must have not looked hard enough. There was a whole other section of the parking lot right around the corner of the building. So at this point, I'm just thinking like, okay, what's about to happen? Where's this conversation about to go? Like, has she seen my YouTube video about her? She must have. Please don't let her start screaming at me in front of everybody in this parking lot. So I didn't really know what to say to her. So I was like, how have you been? Like, what you been up to? And she's like, I've been really well. I've just been working super hard. I work part-time and I go to school. And I'm like, oh, cool, where do you work? And she tells me where she works at. And then she asked me, what have you been up to? I'm like, not much, just same old, doing YouTube videos. I've been working on music a little bit. And she was like, yeah, I heard your song. It's pretty good. I'm like, thank you. By the way, if you want to, you can stream my music on Spotify, Apple Music, and all other platforms under the name Luna. Anyway, I'm like, thank you. And she's like, yeah, so I saw your YouTube video about me. And she starts laughing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh no, like, this is so awkward. So I was like, oh, you did? And she's like, yeah, pretty funny. And the way she said pretty funny, it didn't seem like she found the video to be pretty funny. So I just said straight up, I'm like, are you mad at me about the video? And she's like, no, I'm not mad at you. Like, you didn't say my name in it or anything. And like, it's just a funny story. And I'm 100% wrong for doing that back then. And I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. And she was like, no, I actually think it was funny. Like, I don't care. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you think the video is funny. I'm glad you're not mad at me over it. And she's like, no problem. It's just good to see you. I'm like, you too. And we both just kind of stare at each other for like 2 seconds. And she's like, all right, well, I'll see you later. And I'm like, all right, have a good one. She's like, you too. And she turns around and starts walking back towards her car. I get into my car. I sit down and I just think for a second. I'm like, wow, that was very awkward. But at the same time, that was way less awkward than I thought it was going to be. So I start my car, I start driving out of the parking lot, and as I'm passing by her, I see her just sitting in her car looking out the window at me, and I wave at her, and all of a sudden, she puts her hand up and just throws me the finger. And I'm like, wait, what? And I roll my window down to say something, and the car behind me beeps. So I drive out of there just confused and just like, wait, what? Is she mad at me? Is she not mad at me? And I got home, and I sat down and was just so confused. Like, she was being nice to me, and she said she wasn't mad at me about the video, but when I waved goodbye to her, she threw me the finger. Like, it was just so confusing. So anyway, now I'm here, and I'm still pretty confused. Like, really confused. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the story time. I will definitely keep you guys posted if I ever run into her again. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. You talking down when you looking up and I'm like, what's up? They leave me out for the dead and now they know